Right now, land buyers across the country are actively looking for deals. If you pull up any real estate site, you'll see thousands of land listings that appear available and ready to buy. The problem is simple. Most of that land is wildly overpriced. In many cases, asking prices are 2 or even 3 times higher than what the land will actually sell for. Here's what most buyers don't realize, and this is the key to buying land at a discount. Many of these same sellers regularly accept offers at 50% or more below their asking price. That's not rare. It happens every day. And in a surprising number of cases, sellers accept those offers without even negotiating. The only reason buyers miss this is because they never make an offer in the first place. Once you understand how the land market really works, you instantly separate yourself from the majority of buyers. The more you learn, the cheaper land starts to feel. And that's exactly what we're going to break down. First, I want to show you why asking price means almost nothing when it comes to vacant land. Then I'll show you real examples of properties that started overpriced and quietly sold at massive discounts. After that, we'll talk about how you can make offers and capture those discounts yourself, even if you've never bought land before. Let's start with proof. Here's a 54.89 acre property in Mount Clair, West Virginia. It hit the market at $500,000. A month later, it dropped to $450,000. Then $375,000, then $315,000. After sitting for about a year, it sold for $290,000. That's a 42% discount from the original price. Now look at this one in St. Croix, Minnesota, 35 acres. Originally listed at $1.6 million. No buyers. The listing expired, came back at $1.495 million. Disappeared again, and then reappeared at $675,000. It sold for $635,000. That's over a 60% discount, nearly $1 million gone. And here's a third example in Whiteville, North Carolina. 31 acres listed at $93,000. The price dropped to $30,000. It sold for $22,500. That's more than 75% off. And it happened in about 2 months. If you think these are outliers, they're not. Anyone watching this can verify the pattern. Pull 10 sold land listings in almost any market, and you'll usually find 1 or 2 that sold at massive discounts. Based on years of data and experience, it's fair to say that roughly 15% to 25% of all land sold in the U.S. closes at 50% or more below the original asking price. So why doesn't everyone know this? Because most land sellers don't actually know what their property is worth. They guess. They anchor to a big number. Buyers see that number and walk away. Very few people ever make an offer. And when only a handful of buyers show up, those buyers control the price. Here's the reality most people miss. Many landowners aren't real sellers. They like the idea of selling. They like seeing a high price attached to their land. But they're not committed. A real seller is someone willing to sell to a market buyer at a market price. Once you accept that, everything changes. Asking price stops mattering. It's not real. It's just a starting point someone made up. Let me show you what this looks like in real time. Take this property in Lake Wales, Florida. It's 7.9 acres listed at $1.44 million, zoned for business or light industrial use. The photos look great. The price suggests importance. But when you look closer, the entire property sits in wetlands and flood zone. According to the data, it's not buildable. Access is questionable. There appear to be railroad tracks blocking the entrance. And if you look at the neighboring property, you'll see something interesting. The lot next door sold for under $500,000. It's larger, has road access, sits mostly outside the flood zone, and includes a 59,000 square foot industrial building. So how is unusable wetland land priced nearly $1 million higher? It isn't worth that. The only realistic buyer would be an adjacent owner, and even then, the land has no immediate use. Realistically, its value is closer to $50,000 or $60,000. Now, let's look at a smaller example. This is a 2.28 acre property in Waverly, Tennessee, listed at $65,000. It has great road frontage, But once you account for setbacks, only about half the land is actually usable. There's also a cemetery next door and an easement running through property, which limits privacy and buildable space. When you run comparable sales, similar properties with far better usability sold between $44,000 and $50,000. Even the AI estimate comes in around $47,000. Based on the limitations, a more realistic value is closer to $36,000. So, how do you actually buy land at those prices? Because this works. I've done it hundreds of times. Properties listed at $80,000 bought for $21,000 and resold for $45,000. Properties bought at half of what the previous owner paid and resold near market value. The pattern repeats. If a property is still for sale, the seller hasn't found a real buyer yet. When you make a realistic offer, you become the market, and the seller either accepts your price or keeps holding the land. You don't need to be a negotiator. You don't need to pressure anyone. In many cases, you don't even need a phone call. Just make offers. 20 to 30 offers over a few weeks is enough to find the motivated sellers. Some will accept 10% below value, others 30%, so much more. This happens every day. Once you stop taking asking price seriously, buying land becomes simple. And in the next step, I'll show you how to find, analyze, and track these opportunities in any market using one system. So you can do this consistently.